Today we're going to take a look at Moves Management and the Nonprofit Success Pack. Moves Management refers to the process by which a prospective donor is moved from cultivation to solicitation. Moves are the actions an organization takes to bring in donors, establish relationships, and increase engagement and contribution. We want to identify the potential donors, qualify them, then cultivate them, solicit for the gift, and then continue to steward them to bring them to the next giving level. Wherever possible, we want to take opportunities to automate these tasks. So the first opportunity is with indicators. So those indicators that you're going to use to determine a constituent's potential. They might be wealth data, so an automation opportunity might be an integration with Wealth Engine or some other service. It could be looking at past donations, so looking at your summary fields for giving the past N days or over the past year or the lifetime of the donor. Engagement with the organization, how many times have they attended an event? And come up with this engagement score, so it's basically a value given based on the potential. And then based on that engagement score, you can put them in the different giving levels. Once they're in the levels, then you'll have a cultivation plan, which is a set of activities that'll move the donors towards that next engagement level. And then finally, reporting and analysis. So coming up with good reports and analysis to be able to analyze the effectiveness of your moves management process. So we're going to look at the combination of these three things and how we can use those to help in our moves management process. I've logged into my Salesforce organization, and here I'm in the Lightning view. And we can see a couple cool things right off the bat. I have my home page set up to show me some interesting statistics. For instance, donor year-on-year comparison. If we scroll down a little bit further, I can see households by engagement levels. So I have engagement levels set up, and then I can see how are the households in my database broken out by given levels. I can also see new levels this month. So these are levels that constituents have moved to in the past month. So we can see that we've had one person move to supporter level and 2 people move to the friend level. If I go over to my account, I'm going to look at the bar household, so the bar household account. And what I've done here is I've set up some qualifications. So my qualifications are household giving capacity, household income range, total gifts last N days, and a couple other things on here. So based on those items, I've given them a score, added them up, and come up with a total engagement score. So we can see that this constituent's household has a total engagement score of 20. And that total engagement score of 20 puts them in the advocate level. When a constituent hits the advocate level, they're automatically put into an engagement plan to cultivate them to the major giving level, a major donor level. So if I take a look at my related records here, I can see that the bar household has automatically been put in this engagement plan of Cultivate to major donor. And then there's a series of things that need to be done in order to cultivate that person to move them to that level. So taking a look over here on our activity area, we can see some next steps. So here are the things that I need to do to start that cultivation process. I want to add this person to the major donor prospect campaign, and I want to send a personal acknowledgement letter. I can also see here in the past activity area that this person's household has reached the advocate level and on what date. Now, how did I make all these things happen? Let's take a look. The first thing I did was I put in my fields that I wanted to track in order to measure my engagement. So I put in these fields, so whatever your fields are, I chose the fields I wanted. Then I created a calculated field for that engagement score. So if we take a look, we can see here's my calculated field. Based on the household giving capacity and its setting, I've given it different points values. So here's 0 for low, 5 for medium, and high for 15. Then I've looked at the household income range and done the same thing. And then I've also looked at the giving the last end days, which I have set in my org to be 365 days. I've added those together to come up with the total engagement score, which is showing here. Once I completed that, I set up my giving levels. So here you'll see I have supporter, friend, advocate, and major donor. The levels are dependent on the engagement score field. So if they have an engagement score of 1 to 10, or actually 1 to 9, they're going to be put into the supporter level. If they have an engagement score of 10 to 21, they'll be in the friend. If they have a score of 21 to 30, they'll be advocate, and 31 to 500, major donor. So we saw that the Barr household was in the advocate level. When they hit that level, what happened was I set it so it automatically would kick off an engagement plan. So my next step after setting up my levels was to set up my engagement plans and then come back and reference those in my levels. So let's go ahead and take a look at our engagement plan, Cultivate to Major Donor. Here I've set up my engagement plan, major donor level. So then the default assignee is the user creating the engagement plan. So that means whoever created the plan is the default assignee if you don't assign a specific person. And then it says skip weekends. So if a task falls on a Saturday or Sunday, it will skip it and it'll reschedule it to whatever you choose here. So this means it's going to reschedule it to the next Monday. I could have also done the Friday before. Automatically update child task due date. So basically, this recalculates a child task due date based on when the parent task was actually completed. So you'll see down below, we're going to set up a bunch of tasks, and some of those tasks will be dependent. If they're dependent tasks, what will happen is when the task that it is dependent on is marked as closed, the due date of the dependent task will automatically be recalculated. So I've set up my first task here, which says Level 3 Advocate, and I've marked it as complete. Basically what this task is doing is it's just kind of date stamping that time and date that this actual person moved or this household moved to that advocate level. Below that, I've created a second task to send a personal acknowledgement letter to this person, and that's assigned to me. Below that, I've created a dependent task. So this task is dependent on when this task completes. This first task is to go 1 day after this person hits the engagement plan. This next task is to happen 10 days after the task it's dependent on closes. So 10 days after I complete this first task, then this next task will kick in. So I'm going to have the development director place an acknowledgement call. And then I have another dependent task under that. So 90 days after this task close, I'm going to have the person, or Linda Pagano, do a personal invite to this person to a program. And then my last task here isn't dependent on any other tasks. It's just reminding me to add the major donor or add this person to the major donor prospect campaign. So once you've set up your engagement plan, you can assign that engagement plan to a level. Then when a constituent or an account hits that level, however you have yours assigned, those tasks that you've assigned in your engagement plan will automatically be set up. So once you have all that going on, you can do interesting reports or dashboards to measure how well things are going. So if I go and I look at my reports here, I can see everybody who's reached a new engagement level. So this is reached new engagement level this month. So I can look at anybody who's reached that engagement level this month. I can look at household accounts by engagement levels. So if I want to look at all the different engagement levels I have going and how many households are in each. So I see I have a lot of people sitting at the supporter level. So we really want to start moving them through the process to cultivate them to major donor. So this has been a quick overview of how you can set up the Nonprofit Success Pack to help you with your moves management process. For more information about the features you've seen today, look at the Nonprofit Success Pack, Engagement Plan, and Levels documentation that's available in the Nonprofit Success Pack group in the Power of Us Hub.